Finley Ford, and I am so thrilled and excited for this month for us to work through intuition and to talk about intuition. And that's what we're going to do here during this live. So, everyone has intuition, although a lot of people will say that they don't, feel that they have that connection, or they don't feel like they can trust it. Yet, I know that also everyone experiences that moment where they're like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. I knew I should have X, Y, and Z. I had that feeling and I didn't trust it and I didn't follow through, but I knew. And it's that inner knowingness that we all have that we want to dive in here this evening to start to understand how to work with it better. Hi, Joni. Welcome. Thanks for jumping in here. So we're going to start out with a story, actually, and we're all unique and special and wonderful, but we all start in the same way. So this is a story that is for all of us. We all start as an embryo in our mother's womb. And that embryo, those cells divide and reproduce and grow and change, and then we're born. And we know how to drink, suck, we learn to roll over, we learn to scooch on our bellies, we eventually learn to crawl, we learn to stand, we learn to walk. And where does this learning and knowingness come from? It comes from within. No one ever told us how to grow in our mother's womb. No one ever told us that we need to learn to roll over. I mean, well, our parents may have told us, but it doesn't work like that. So there is this inner knowingness that we all have from the moment that we were created, from that very first moment, but then somehow we kind of dumb it down as we go, as we grow. And actually, I don't think it's that we dumb it down. It's that our conscious mind develops, and when our conscious mind gets involved, then we want to rely on logic. And then our ego also gets involved and it wants to protect us. So those things cause us to second guess ourselves. Now, listening to our intuition is simply listening to that inner voice inside of us. But it's not always that simple. Like I say, oh, it's simply that. Intuition really is easy if we have the knowingness to understand what that inner voice sounds like, feels like. It's different for different people. Now, the other thing about falling away from our intuition is that other people might actually say that we're rebelling. Because oftentimes where our intuition leads us is not necessarily into the ways of mainstream society or cultural norms. So some people might say that we're rebelling if we're following our intuition, and that actually couldn't be further from this truth, because it's not at all rebellion. And our conditioning also. We get so conditioned to do things within the traditions of our family, our friends. And what if we start listening to these inner nudges where people might think that we're weird? And so it's easy to push it down and to reject it. Now, I also want to give fair warning that our intuition can often be counterintuitive, right? Let me say that again. Our intuition can often be counterintuitive. What do I mean by that? Well, I recently listened to my intuition, which if I had listened to my design, I would not have done this. And this is where our intuition can be counterintuitive. So I have been resistive to doing things that Travis and I used to do together before he left. And I had this nudge to go have coffee at a place that we were having coffee at regularly before he left. And so, of course, my initial response to that was, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there by myself. Let me phone a friend. I'll schedule a coffee date with a friend. So I phone a friend. They're out of state. Can't meet me. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I could call other people, but it just didn't feel right. So just trusting that feeling, I'm like, I'm doing the thing. I'm going to go. Now, I thought, if I'm going to go to a coffee shop, I'll write, because I would like to write. I usually spend the morning, Saturday morning, writing. So let me still write. I'll write at this coffee shop. This also is counterintuitive, because me by design likes it quiet. Even when I write at home, there's no music on, there's no background noise, the TV isn't on, it's just me and my writing and my thoughts. So to decide that I'm going to go write in a public space that's loud is very counterintuitive to who I am. So I get there, and there's a man and a woman sitting at a table, and I had this nudge to go talk to him. Now, I'm really introverted. I can talk to strangers, but it's never the first thing I want to do. And so I had that nudge, and I'm like, really? No, let's not talk to strangers today. How about we just try to focus on writing in this loud, busy restaurant, coffee shop? But that nudge, that impulse wouldn't stop. Go talk to him, go talk to him. So I go talk to him, and he is a retired attorney. And they meet every Saturday morning with attorneys, the most, I'm told, prominent attorneys in the area, and a retired Chief Justice. So to have put myself in this space, which really wasn't my doing, right? Like, your intuition is your inner knowing, divine, God, spirit, like whatever that is to you in your belief system. I do not believe that it's all me and my ego. I think that there is something bigger guiding me, but that's just my belief system, and there's no right or wrong. The intelligence is what it is. It's that same intelligence that grew you to where you were. And it will make these magical, amazing, awe-inspiring moments if we follow it. But it can be very counterintuitive to who you are, so there will have to be a little bit of discipline, courage, bravery, stepping out to do some of those things that we would not necessarily want to do. So if any of you guys on here, hi Jen, hi Gretchen, the culture speaks to you too. Yeah, it can be so easy just to, march forward in our culture versus listening to ourselves and believing that we are that intelligent to know what we need. Hi Lynn, thanks for joining. Marsha, thanks for hopping in here. So, if you guys have had any magical moments with your intuition, I'd love to hear your stories. Feel free to drop them in the comments. So really, our intuition is as simple as following those inner nudges. When we can hear the nudges and when we can be brave enough to step out in them. And they will be that roadmap that we want to know that our life, we're on the right path, right? I like to hold the belief that there is no right or wrong, and that's for another live on a different day of universal laws to follow. That there is no right or wrong happening, but we like that, ego especially likes that, to know that we're doing the right thing and that we're on the right path. Our intuition will take us there. Now, what can appear to be rebellion is not actually rebellion, right? It's just this return to the intelligence that grew us and raised us. It's a return to ourselves. It's a listening to ourselves. It's a trust within ourselves. And we can get so used to having hurdles around us that when they're not there, oh, we're just following our intuition and things are falling in line, simple, simple, simple. Just like going to a coffee shop and finding what time and space I can return to this coffee shop should I want to be around a whole bunch of attorneys and a Chief Justice. That's easy. That's really easy. But we can be so used to things being hard that we won't allow them to be easy. We'll actually start creating the hurdles. And that's part of that rejecting of our intuition, because we're used to things being challenging. My nose is drippy. Sorry, guys. So really our intuition is as simple as I know and I do. I feel and I be. Just embody it, walk with it, do it. Now, reasons why we might make it difficult is because we might not see the immediate reason of why we're having the nudge. Oh, I followed through and I went, and this is another, followed my nudge. I went to church on a Sunday. I went to a different location than the normal church that I go to. I had this nudge to go stand in the cafe area, which is just a community area where people can get coffee, hot chocolate. And I just stood at this table, and I met a woman who came up to me as I was standing there. And we quickly realized that we had like 45 things in common. And I'm like, yeah, I was just, following a nudge to come stand here. And she's like, oh, I felt like I should say hello. Now, nothing more has transpired from that, but I don't think that that meeting was at all by chance, at all. But because we might not see the immediate reason behind it, we'll write it off that, it's no big deal, or it wasn't productive, or there's no purpose in following that intuition. So it's important to recognize those breadcrumbs, that's really how it works. We get these little breadcrumbs, one piece at a time. We don't see the whole picture until we're much further down the road. But if we can just see the next breadcrumb and walk to it, go to it, be disciplined in that, step out bravely with courage, make it to the next breadcrumb, pick that breadcrumb up, we're going to have the whole path unfold. Not trusting ourselves will also lead to us rejecting our intuition or not following it. So building that relationship of knowingness of what your intuition is, and then trusting. I used to always poll, like take a poll and let everyone make a decision for me, essentially. Like, what would you do if you were in my shoes? What would you do if you were in my shoes? What would you do in this situation? And then I would consider what everyone had contributed that they would do. And I would let their opinions supersede my own inner knowing. And I would make decisions based upon what they would do because I didn't trust myself. Like, we have to cultivate that trust that, yes, I am my best asset. And yes, I really know what is best for me. Now, another reason that we might not align with our intuition or understand it is because we don't drop into our bodies. And we'll do an exercise at the end that will make all of this make sense. But we get sensations and communication in our body, and we don't always listen to that or pick up on it or tune into it. And those can be big, big indicators of our intuition. Also, we may fear the emotions and ignore the intelligence because it stirs some sort of emotion within us, and we want to avoid that. So then we go in a different direction. Hey, SJ, thanks for jumping in. And then we might also want like a specific system, right? Like, if you talk to someone and their intuition works for them in a specific way, and they know that information for them comes in from one certain aspect, or they just get this feeling in their gut. The gut and the intuition are very connected, so a lot of people will resonate with that within their gut. So you may listen to other people's experiences of it and then expect to have the same, versus coming to know yourself and knowing how your intuition works for you. So there's a couple really amazing things that you can do if that's part of your like wobbling with knowing your intuition. You can always use pendulum or muscle testing as you're developing this practice with your intuition to confirm, am I on the right track? And if you're not familiar with pendulum, it is using I don't have one to show you, it'd be easier, but essentially I could even take the necklace off and use the pendant, and it would move without me moving it when I ask a yes or no question. Muscle testing, yes and no, it's a response from the physical body. I am going to drop, if anyone is interested in learning those, I'm going to drop the links for both the pendulum and the muscle testing course. You get access to these as a member of Stronger Together. But if you would like to just get into those courses on their own and see what it's about, I'm going to drop those links and you can grab those courses as standalone as well. Otherwise, in addition to the 2 monthly calls that we do in Stronger Together, where we support and help you develop these types of gifts, you get all of that in those calls plus like 15 other courses too. So lots of options, but those are great tools to have as you're building and developing your intuition. And the other thing coming up is our workshop on intuition on March 14th. A lot of ons and ins. So on March 14th, we are having a workshop to go deeper into your intuition so that you cultivate more certainty with it. And then within the Stronger Together calls this month, the calls on the second and fourth Thursday of each month, we're going to start weeding out that lack of trust and the other stumbling blocks and hurdles that people experience with intuition. So this whole month we're focusing on it. It's such a valuable tool to cultivate. I'm so thrilled to be diving into this. So all of those options are at your fingertips, and I will drop the link for the workshop in the comments here toward the end. So some people will challenge, if you will, do I dare follow every want or nudge that I have? Especially if those wants aren't what's best for me. Like, I want pizza, or I want ice cream, I want nachos, but doesn't mean that I should just, trot off and have every want that I have, or I want to go buy all of these things I don't have money for. Well, first of all, we need to have a radical permission to have what we want. Give ourselves radical permission, because it's these wants that drive our inner being really unfolding and unleashing. It is powerful. But most people actually don't know what they want, which is interesting to think about. But the statistics are literally 1% know what they want. And that is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Now, as far as ice cream and nachos and spending sprees, what is the want underneath that? Right? Like, dig deeper. Go beneath the surface. Do I want ice cream because I want pleasure? Or am I trying to numb myself from something? So if I'm numbing myself, is it because I want to feel whole? I want to feel loved? I want to feel enough? I want companionship? I want acceptance? There's something else underneath those surface level wants. And we can dig deeper into that and follow our intuition and our nudges to cultivate this life that's deeply fulfilling. And it all starts when we stop fighting down our knowing. When we stop pushing away like, oh yeah, I knew that and I didn't follow through. And we start saying, I know I need to do this, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why. I'm just doing it. Yes, Gretchen, great point. The short-term wants versus long-term goals. And that can be very different. And it's aligning our wants to be those goals. Because a lot of people will work jobs that aren't fulfilling because they want a paycheck. But they're being nudged to go do something else. And they don't listen. There's a lot of that where we fight down what we really actually, that knowingness that we have, that we're meant to be doing something different, or we're meant for something bigger. And then we talk ourselves out of why we can't have it. Like, here's 65 reasons. Well, if we just get out of our own way and follow our nudges, we can have it. And if we align our long-term goals with the things that we want, and we want what our actual long-term goals are, that are those deep, soul-given purpose and desires, it all aligns, and it's all going to be ours. So a story I'm going to just share one more story, then we're going to get to our tips, and we'll wrap up with a little bit of energy work. So the story about fighting down our knowingness. Once upon a time, there was a maybe 21. We'll say 21-year-old Janessa. And she had been engaged to get married for a couple of years. And she had a moment in time where she really began to question if that was what was in her best interest. And because she polled the population versus going within and trusting herself, she picked up the phone and she called a family member. And the family member said, you know, everybody gets cold feet. It's probably just cold feet. And so I said, yeah, okay, it's cold feet. That's right. Like, do what you say what you do. That's really my value. I've made this commitment. I'm following through. I do care about this person. Let's get married. So 21-year-old Janessa got married, and 22-year-old Janessa got divorced. And when I reflect back on that knowingness that I had, and then I let someone else talk me out of it because I wasn't very rooted in my knowingness at that time, and I felt like it would be such an inconvenience to cancel everything that had already been planned, which was most of the wedding by that point in time. But what I didn't see in playing forward is what a bigger inconvenience it was to end the relationship, or for the relationship to not work out after a marriage versus before. And these are the things that our intuition and our knowingness will always guide us in the right direction if we just trust. All right, so let's get into, I said there'd be 3 tips, but I'm actually going to give you 4. So 4 tips to develop your intuition. First of all, you have to make time and space and check in to listen to it. I know that's really common sense, but there's so much rushing in our life. There's so many demands. There's so many things to do. Get up, make the bed, do the dishes, take care of the kids, go to school, the routines, the things, this work. Maybe working out, you know, whatever your lifestyle is, there's volunteer work and obligations, and the list goes on and on and on. It can be so easy to not even make space to check in with yourself. And if you're not making space to check in with yourself, you have no idea what's going on in there or what you're even trying to communicate with yourself, what your intuition is trying to tell you. Joni, you got those nudges too before both of your marriages. I know. I lived my own version of that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for knowing that neither one of us are alone. And I love that you recognize the nudge now so that you can follow it, of course, going forward. All right, so make time and space to listen to your intuition. That's the first one. Second one, get curious. Our curiosity will also point us in the direction of our intuition. So for instance, again, intuition can often be counterintuitive, and this is just a little small story, but this is how frequently, once you start developing your intuition, it shows up for you. It's there all the time. I woke up one morning. I don't usually like to social media first thing in the morning. I don't really like to be on my phone first thing in the morning. And not only was I on my phone and I was on social media, I saw a podcast. And I was like, I don't know that person. And the title of it didn't appeal to me at all. But I had this nudge, listen to the podcast. And like, I don't really want to start my day with a podcast on that topic either. Because it's very current event and real life, and it's heavier stuff, and I like to start my day and yoga and meditation and reading. But I clicked on it, and this podcast literally was word for word the experience that we are living. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear this. And I know that I am not alone in what I'm going through. Simply because I listened to the nudge, even though it wasn't the right time of day, it wasn't how I like to start my day, it wasn't the content that I want to focus on at that part of my day. But I had the curiosity of, what is this? Who is this? And I had that nudge that I just needed to explore it, and I followed the curiosity. So get really curious. Get curious in life. Get curious about your nudges. What are things that you want to know more about? Explore them. It'll all lead you back to your return to you. Third, listen to your body. So I referenced earlier that sometimes our body gives us a lot of intuitive information that we don't listen to. So I want you to take a second and to drop into your body. Bring your attention to your heart. Take a couple deep breaths. Just releasing everything that has been on your mind today. Things that you still need to do for the rest of the day. Just come, be really present in your chest, in your heart center. And then I'm going to give you a scenario. I want you to envision yourself doing these things, and I want you to feel if your chest expands, if it feels light, if it constricts, if it feels heavy, or what other sensation you get. So first of all, imagine yourself on a stage reading poetry in front of a very large group of people, and feel into your chest, into your heart, into your body. Do you light up? Do you expand? Do you buzz? Do you shrink? Do you feel heavy? What is that response? That's your intuition talking to you. That's your inner knowingness of whether or not that is for you. Bringing your attention back to your heart center. Imagine yourself on a mountain on skis or a snowboard, and you're flying down the mountain or petering down the mountain. It doesn't matter. Whatever pace is right for you. And it's effortless, and it's easy, and the wind is blowing against your skin. Do you expand? Do you get excited? Do you shrink? Do you feel fearful? Again, this is your intuition. Those are the body sensations that we can tune into when we check in with ourselves if something is for us or not meant for us. The fourth and last tip is to document your nudges and the actions you take and how it works out. So essentially, you're picking up the breadcrumbs as you go, because we don't always recognize a breadcrumb when it's right in front of us. But if we keep track of what sensations we have, of what the nudges, how they came in, what was that knowingness like for you, how did you sense it, what did you do, what inspired action did you take from that nudge, and what was the result, you'll begin to learn how you communicate with yourself. And if you want to bypass that more lengthy version of just monitoring and tracking yourself, you can come join us at the workshop on the 14th, because part of that workshop will be helping you understand how your intuition speaks for you and moves through you specifically, because it is different for different people. So the poll, interesting that I put up a poll for this live, since I was talking about polling people. And the poll results was to end with some energy work. So we will close out here with just a few minutes of energy work. So go ahead, make yourself comfortable, get a drink of water if you don't have it or if you feel as though you need that. And take a few deep breaths. And I am just going to move the energy through your energy systems. We want to balance the 7 energy systems within your being. So go ahead and take a deep breath, several deep breaths. And let those energy systems balance and optimize for you. Releasing any emotions that are not serving you, any weight from this day or from the current chapter that you're in your journey that's weighing you down, that's bogging you down, that's ready to be released. Take a deep breath and let all of that go. Perhaps you see light coming in through the top of your head and releasing the weight, cleansing your being down your body, out through your feet, into the earth. A couple more deep breaths. And when it comes to intuition, we want our mind and our spirit and our heart and our body to all be connected. So take a deep breath, and we are going to connect all of those intelligence centers and communication so that it's received as that. Instead of saying, oh, I have this pain in my body, you know that it's communication. I actually tend to get a buzzing sensation in my feet when I work energy with people in private session. And for a long time, I didn't even recognize that. So in connecting to this, we want to connect you to the ways that your intuition, your body communicates with you, how your knowingness comes through. And then we also want to release anything from your timeline where people muted, discouraged, negated, canceled out your inner knowingness and taught you to do the same thing. So take a few deep breaths on that. That could include clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. For any of you who like to develop those, you will definitely want to join both the workshop and Sammy Jo's upcoming live. I'm not sure there's an event for it yet, but she is the queen of the clairs, and she will be focusing on how our clairs come into play with our intuition as well. Because we all have those too, even though we think we do not, or we don't know how to work with them. Take one final deep cleansing breath for me. We're just releasing any blocking energy or interference to accepting, allowing, and receiving. Excellent. And with that, I'm going to bid you a great evening. Thank you for joining me here. I will drop the link in the comments for the upcoming workshop, and I truly hope to see you there. Also, if you do follow any nudges this week, that is your homework. Follow your nudges. If you follow your nudges and you have a really cool experience, I would love to hear it. You can come back, drop it here in the comments, or shoot me a direct message. I would love, love, love to hear what rewards you have from tuning into your inner knowingness, your inner intelligence, and following it. Until next time, have a good evening.